everyone. Do not be alarmed, it's me, Robotron. As you can see, I'm currently not in my body but in my nifty car dashboard. Why, you may ask? Well, my body is in need of some repairs. I wonder how many augmentations I'll get this time. Hopefully we'll know soon enough, right? Thankfully I can still watch movies and comment about them, right? Let's go to it. Saints and Soldiers is a 2003 World War II movie about a small group of people escaping the Normandy massacre where 84 US Army POWs were killed by their German captives. It's very loosely based on these events and a book that was written about it, so don't take it as an historically accurate movie. The four escaped prisoners stumble upon a British airman who has vital intelligence that needs to go to the Allied lines, so they venture out, trying to avenge German soldiers and get that info through the cold snowed-out forest of the Ardennes to the nearest Allied camp. Like many World War movies, this is all about a message of honor and dignity, the horrors of war and the human faces behind it. It doesn't offer anything spectacular in regards to battles and effects, but it does a good job showing the predicament the soldiers would find themselves in. It won numerous Best Picture awards during over 15 film festivals, though I found this movie to be a bit too run-of-the-mill to have so many. People who love World War II movies won't do wrong by watching this movie, however, but don't expect action like in Saving Private Ryan or Fury, for example. Saints and Soldiers is a competent movie, but it felt more like a TV special than an actual blockbuster, which is not a critique at all. Check that. In Don't Look Up, Jennifer Lawrence's character notices a kilometer-wide asteroid on a collision course with Earth. Realizing this Earth killer has a couple of months to arrive, she and Professor Randall Mindy, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, decide to warn the authorities of the impending doom. Much to their surprise, however, they are pretty much ignored and everything is politicized. There's a lot of parallels going on in this movie with the way the current pandemic has been dealt with. Though for proponents of the measures and science, this movie is all about the dumb science deniers, while for skeptics it's all about the mis and disinformation being spewed by politicians and news media. It's ironic how double a movie can be and how people with different opinions can look at it differently. Regardless of that, however, Don't Look Up is a comedy, or at least it's supposed to be, because I didn't find anything funny about this. Not only a cause of the fact there are many Hollywood stars in this who clearly are mocking the viewers who think differently, not only because the delivery of the jokes are flat and uninspiring, but also because it's dealing with an event that doesn't seem so far away right now. Bad timing, I bet, but to realize that for a movie probably written in or before 2019, before all this started, it seems a bit weird about how accurate it is in the clown world we are being served on screen as well as in real life. There are plenty of analogies, though even there the consensus is skewed. To me, the president, played by Kate Blanchett, looked like the cackling Kamala Harris rather than a parody of Trump, and her son, played by Jonah Hill, looked like Biden instead of Trump Jr. Leonardo DiCaprio seemed like Forcey at times, reveling in the attention and pussy he's getting from his media shows, while Jennifer Lawrence is the unheard scientist realizing they are not heard. Whatever you think the analogies and parallels are, it doesn't really matter, I guess. As a comedy, this movie fails for me. As a disaster movie, it's a little bit better, were it not for the SNL-type humor being spewed. Same goes for the drama aspect, even though at the end I did shed a tear, though those are probably fueled by my own feelings about wanting to lead a peaceful life for myself and my offspring till our expiration date arrives. Don't Look Up. Clearly it is a mixed bag of a movie. Find out for yourself if you like it, cause I did not. Check that. The 80s were full of great action movies where burly men, usually some kind of soldier or Vietnam vet, fought life and limb against the military-industrial complex. Evil men or Russians in general. Strike Commando is no different though, as we follow Sergeant Michael Ransom, played by Red Brown, who is the sole survivor of a mission that was prematurely bombed to a violent end by his commanding officer, killing every single member of the strike team he was part of. Of course, he vows revenge and discovers an uncomfortable truth. something you will already realize at the beginning of the movie. Strike Commando mixes a lot of Rambo tropes with plenty of cheese. So much cheese, however, that almost every scene feels like a comedy skit. Eventually things get so weird you can't help but think that this was all planned ahead and supposed to be bad. So bad that it's good, and it almost gets there, just not fast enough. The acting in this movie is atrocious, and you'll laugh out loud when Robotron starts yelling, especially when it recreates the Rambo rise from water scene. Things get even more ridiculous when we meet the Soviet soldier who calls Michael random Amerikansky at every point. Be sure to stick around for their final battle because it's jaw-dropping. Strike Commando is bad, but it's bad enough to be almost good. Grab nachos, grab alcohol, grab beers and have a ball. Smash that. Strike Commando 2 brings back Michael Ransom, played this time by Brent Huff, who decides to rescue his Vietnam squad leader who got captured by terrorists demanding 10 millions worth of diamonds for his release. Michael, helped by blonde bimbo Rosanna Boom, is dispatched by the CIA to rescue him, get back the diamonds and stop the evil heroin smuggling terrorists. Needless to say that the plot will thicken and that things are not what they seem. And this movie is also not what it seems, cause it took itself a little bit too seriously, at least in comparison to the first movie. There were a lot of things in the first movie that were so over the top it couldn't be other than intentional. Strike Commando 2, however, doesn't do that, making this movie less compelling to watch. The way it's set up as well, with rescuing the character in distress during the first 20 minutes, eventually feels weird as it tries to be clever but fails. The action is okay for an Italian B-movie, but action alone doesn't keep a movie going. Strike Commando is a cool title. The cover is equally cool, reminiscing of classic action games from the 80s, but the movie itself is a disappointment. Stick with the first one unless you want to be a completionist. Drop that. A literary agent moves to a penthouse apartment in a very rich neighborhood. A lot of people pop up cause he's such a jet-setter in a rich neighborhood to fill the pool of suspects after you see him getting a bunch of crime scene photos that appear to be made inside his apartment. A cat and mouse game with an unknown killer ensues. Cops get involved. Neighbors get involved. Friends get involved. All are suspects, but who is the real culprit? Who did and does the killings and makes the life of our main protagonist a living hell? Killing Floor is a basic thriller that catches your attention but has some very weird vibe and editing going through it. Were it filmed by a more competent crew it would have been a lot better than it is, but as is it doesn't reach full speed and achieve full potential. These characters are all unlikable and mediocre, and you're simply not rooting for any of them. Acting is subpar, and the conclusion is something you will expect if you were able to pay some attention during the movie. Personally, when the reveal popped up I already didn't care enough and was happy the movie was over. Check that. Das Experiment is the original 2001 German movie that got a probably lame American remake that totally misses the point of the story. It's a fictional retelling of an actual experiment done in 1971 called the Stanford Experiment. In this experiment, a group of people is divided in two camps, one being the prisoners, the others being the guards. They are confined in a prison simulation with only a few rules. The purpose: to see how people will act and react. The goal: money will be received by the group that achieves the preset assignment. Needless to say that this little game quickly turns sour when certain individuals get high on power. The experiment escalates, and unlike the real experiment, which was halted within a mere couple of days, things get worse and worse for those involved. The Stanford Experiment and many others like it are a dark look into the human psyche and how easily fairly normal people can go wrong due to pressure or other circumstances. Das Experiment is an extremely tense movie from beginning to end, and although fictional, you're affected at what happens at the end. There are many other movies like this, including The Wave dealing with the Nazi youth movement, Experiment are based on the Milgram experiments, and one from 2015 that is actually called the Stanford Experiment, which I have yet to see. If you like human psyche and thrillers, then be sure to watch this. Smash that. Animal World is a weird Chinese movie about a boy who imagines himself to be a clown character he remembers from his childhood TV addiction. Whenever something bad happens, the people turn into monsters and he turns into a killer clown, kicking ass and killing everyone. He has a mother who is in the hospital and is racking up a lot of debt cause of it. And then, much like Squid Game and that other movie I can't find the name of because I saw it on a TikTok with a guy weighing himself against gold, he is invited to join a game. This game is competitive rock, paper, scissors. Each loss removes one of your stars, the goal, to get rid of your cards and win. The rules are explained in the movie by none other than Michael Douglas, so be sure to pay attention cause you'll need it. What ensues is a weird Yu-Gi-Oh-like movie where people are pretty much theorizing and playing rock, paper, scissors with each other. The clown still appears, but as mentioned before, it's his imagination. It's strangely compelling despite my lack of mathematical skills. It's well made, with compelling characters and some action scattered amidst plausibility, tactics and luck. In a rock paper scissors game, Animal World is so Chinese and yet not something I expected the communist country to deliver, especially after getting rid of Hong Kong and their great movies. Check that. 20th Century Boys. Beginning of the End is the first part of a trilogy of films based on the 20th century and 21st century boys manga by Naoki Urasawa, spanning 249 chapters into 22 volumes. All this will be pumped into 2 hours 20 movies, so you already know you're not gonna get everything, but let's see, shall we? In Beginning of the End we meet Kenji, an elementary school kid, and his friends who enjoy their time together by doing things kids of that era enjoyed to do: build camps, wage fake fights, fantasize of bigger and better things. Yes, kids went and were allowed to go outside before the 90s, and seeing this takes place in 1969 even more was possible. One of their fantasies is a book where supervillains attempt to take over the world and a hero kids will have to fight them. Many years later, however, in 1997, their adult versions have exchanged dreams for reality and leading mundane jobs to get by, until an actual supervillain pops up and uses the playbook they created 30 years earlier. The old friends get together and try to figure out who is bringing their fantasies to life. And so the movie commences. There are a lot of flashbacks, some fighting, some head-scratchy stuff, a lot of wait, what was that, but plenty of heart that clearly is going somewhere. Knowing this is part of the trilogy, you don't overthink too much, hoping that you will get the answer later, and with a mysterious figure who wears a mask with a nifty symbol on it, a giant robot and gas that makes people's head explode, you will definitely wonder what the hell is going on. Check that. 20th Century Boys 2: The Last Help is a direct continuation of the first one, and you will need to have seen the first one to know what's going on, cause it'll get even more complicated in this one. The movie starts 15 years after the events in the main movie. The mysterious masked man called Friend has amassed more powers and pretty much is a religious cult leader that now spans the globe, including weird rules. Some of the main characters from the first movie return, aged 15 years of course, and continue to save the world from the villain they invented so many decades ago. The now almost elderly kids want to stop whatever will be coming out of the new book of prophecy made by them, with new allies but a whole lot of people on Friend's side, making their task more difficult. The Last Hope is pretty similar to the first movie, mainly due to all movies being made by the same director. It becomes a wee bit more complicated since the people from the previous movie are now aged and there's still a whole lot going on. But like with the previous one, there's still one more coming, so you'll probably know what is going on in that one, right? By now we're 4 hours 40 minutes in, so I'm sure it's coming. Check that. 20th Century Boys 3: Redemption is the final chapter in the 20th Century Boys movies. Will we get to know who Friend is? Will we see more destruction and mayhem from the self-fulfilling prophecy our friends created? Will weird shit happen again? Will things be made clear? Well, of course they will, cause this is the final movie. Well, kinda. A little bit. I haven't read the manga and I doubt I ever will see. It's quite the endeavor to get all volumes, but certain things do get answered in the movie. Apparently a lot more is not touched in the film because it's impossible to put everything in a movie, even a 7-hour-long trilogy that was told in 22 volumes. At the end of the road you might wonder, is this trilogy worth the trouble? And I would say yes, it is, and especially because it attempts to do what the manga already did. The story is interesting. The characters are compelling if you can keep them apart through the 3 movies and time jumps. The friend character is cool with his symbol and mask, reminding me of other cool masks that were created in popular media. There's enough action and wow moments to make it compelling. The conclusions of the movies I just took in and accepted cause I kinda had my fill after all that time. 20th Century Boys is an epic story with an okay translation to the big screen. You're left with the decision of reading the manga and seeing things you don't want to see in the movie versus not reading them and not fully knowing what the hell is going on. Regardless, it was fun enough for me and the anime looks cool as fuck. Check that. Feels a bit weird not doing these in my own body, but what can you do about it, right? I sure hope Bonnie and April take good care of me. Well, I'm sure they will. They always do. See you next time.